Hi, this is Ashish R. Bedekar, and welcome to my podcast, The ARB Show. I'm thrilled to introduce today's guest, Hais. As you know, innovation is a very tough job. It requires priority, management buy-in, creativity, structure, and a whole lot. Our guest, Hais, is here to help. He's the founder of Fourth Innovation Institute and award-winning global innovation keynote speaker. He has over 40 years of innovation experience around the world. He's an author, he's a workshop expert, he's an innovation guru. And so he has, in fact, more than six innovation books, and he's a celebrated storyteller with keynote lectures, a practitioner with innovation workshop. Thank you so much, Hais, for being a guest on the show.
My pleasure.
I look forward to hearing your insights on top 5 ways to get management buy-in for innovation, because I think that's the most crucial aspect. You might have a good idea, but how do you really get management buy-in so that you can implement your innovation? Over to you, Hais.
Yes, that's really the big challenge, Ashish. And I already had written 6 books on innovation, and then I said, okay, that's it. I told everything I knew, and then on LinkedIn I published a poll on LinkedIn. I said, and the poll, it was a very simple poll. It was asked, when innovating, what is the reason your projects get stopped? And feasibility, technology was only 8%. There was a small percentage, no business model, mostly because people started from technology point of view without attaching it to a customer need. Then the other reason was too slow. We are too slow because it cost me so much time, and we can't get enough speed. And 52% was no management buy-in. It means the enemy of innovation is inside your organization. And that's why winning management buy-in is essential, because you can plant all little seeds, but when management doesn't give them any water, nothing will grow.
Right. So, in fact, I read a similar quote which said that accounting is the one of the big enemy of innovation, because accounting or finance goes on historic models, right, which have happened in the past and which have been codified and put on the books. Innovation is all about blue sky thinking, creating something which has no precedence. So when that is the kind of thing, how do you kind of allocate resources? How do you plan for it? How do you kind of have a risk mitigation, or how do you have the necessary courage to take bold bets? So it's really that's something which you always like to talk about, management and those aspects. So in your view, when you say management buy-in is the biggest roadblock, let's flip the question and see from the management perspective. So what are the kind of roadblocks from a CEO's perspective that he's reluctant to nurture innovation beyond the typical cursory mention of innovation and cursory liking to think of their company as an innovative company, but when it actually comes to execution, implementation, kind of put it on the back burner. So what do you think are the challenges or the thought process in a CEO's mind?
Today wins from tomorrow, and tomorrow wins from the day after tomorrow. You need to be profitable today. So sales wins from marketing for tomorrow and positioning. But marketing wins from innovation, because marketing is for tomorrow and innovation is for the day after tomorrow. So now let's define innovation first. Let's take a practical definition. You got incremental innovation and radical innovation. Incremental innovation or improvement is the simple steps. We're going to improve our products or next generation, and we improve it and we improve it and we improve. That's essential. That's for the business of today. It is with little risk because we know the product. It's often with little investment. We can use our own skills and we can do it fast. Of course, at least 2/3 of all your projects should be incremental projects. Why? I am a business economist. I am an accountant. It's not about only blue sky thinking. Then you are a dreamer. Innovation is not for dreamers. Innovation is for dreamers who can transform a dream into reality. And for reality, you need business thinking. So in the fourth methodology, FORTH, it is combining design thinking with business thinking, and that's what makes it so effective and so powerful, delivering effective innovation results with little risks. So going back, you need to be profitable today. So if you're not profitable today, you need to work on your profit, because innovation, when I say I want to innovate, Ashish, I'm going to ask you money. If you don't have any money, you can't give it to me. So you must be profitable. Because I ask you money now and I said, Aziz, I will give it back in 5 years. I ask you 100 now and I give you back 300 after 5 years. Will you give me the money? That's what innovation is. So there are big differences between family companies and big companies where 2 quarters ahead is already long term, because a family company thinks in decades. They think in generations. I am managing now, and it should be profitable, but I want to make the company also ready for the next generation and the next generation. And as the world is changing, you know that the next generation, you have to do different things. It can be different products, different markets, different services, but most of the time also different processes internally to make it more effective and more efficient. Because innovation can be all. It's not only technology. You also get social innovation, organizational innovation, process innovation, which is really important, service innovation, business model innovation, customer experience innovation. So you can innovate in any way. And the only reason for me as CEO to do it is strategy. Innovation, but the only reason to do it is strategy. Hey, the world is changing. We need to lead change too in our sector. Otherwise, somebody else will do it and we will be beaten. Or it is out of ambition, strategic ambition. Hey, I see my market goes up, but now in 5 years it will go like this. So growth will be less and also margins will be less when it goes like this. So we need to have another curve in 5 years. So I have to start now to ideate, to make the business case, to develop and to introduce a new product or service or innovation in 5 years. You need to start now, because innovation takes time from ideation to realization.
Excellent. So that's an extremely well articulated structure. So innovation is not only in business, it can be a step change in multiple areas. And again, we need to have a long-term thinking and not a quarter-to-quarter thinking to actually invest. And I see your point, because of pressures of performance, etc. If the demand for innovation requires capital allocation, which will have results, maybe, again, it's a risk after 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years. The CEO is going to say, let me invest something which I can at least foresee some returns in the next few quarters, right? So that's the very interesting thing, which brings to a next question: that do you think there is an art and a science to pick a moment or pick a specific time when it's the right time to innovate? Because as you
Wonderful
rightly,
question.
yeah.
Yes. Well, this is where I differ from a lot of my innovation colleagues. They talk about continuous innovation. Yes, of course. When you see also incremental, you're always doing incremental innovation. But when do you do the big radical innovations? The big ones where you need to change a lot internally or invest a lot, where the risks are bigger because you haven't done it or nobody has done it in the world. Now, innovation is like planting a seed. You have to work the ground. The quality of the ground is the organization. If you plant the seed when it's too cold, winter, it's crisis, nothing grows. Everybody is afraid of being laid off, and there's tensions everywhere and political gains everywhere. In those periods, don't plant your seed, innovator. Stay silent. Then there's summer. Oh, it's really, everybody's busy. Clients are coming in everywhere. It's so busy. We just don't have any time. It's too hot. Innovators do nothing. You either can innovate in spring. That's a moment you want to innovate out of ambition. And then the ground is fertile. It's busy, but it's not too busy. And there's money, and there's ambition, and there's growth. So innovate in spring. Plant your seed in spring and do the marathon that ends before the summer. Otherwise, they will stop you. And that's the moment you want to innovate. Those are the innovators. And then comes, the crisis comes, and we reorganize. And then here, this is the moment where you not want to innovate, but you need to innovate. Those are the innovators. They waited until they need to innovate, right? And the innovators, the good news, there is urgency here. But there's no money. So either you innovate in spring out of ambition, or in the fall out of necessity. Those are the two moments you have to pick. And in the meantime, what do you do as innovator? Nothing. Why? Because you can launch your idea only once. When you launch it in summer, and you say, no, as CEO, can I come back with you in 3 months? Hello, here I am again. I got the same idea. Well, you say yes, you say, no. I already said no, right? So you have to stay quiet and keep all the good initiatives until there is, for example, a new strategy, or there is a new CEO, or there is a new important shareholder who wants to change things. That's the moment to innovate. Or when there is a big crisis and the organization has reorganized 3 times and you're still there, lucky you. That's the moment you say, hey guys, doing the same thing with less people doesn't give perspective. I want to change something, and here we need to innovate and do different things. And those are the moments you need to wait, and in the meantime, be quiet. You are enthusiastic about your ideas, but don't plant a seed in the winter or the summer. Do it in spring or in fall.
Excellent. I think there's a very interesting parallel which I was thinking. It's very similar to what people talk about strategy, right? Military strategy. Timing is everything. When you want to do
timing is everything.
Exactly. And also I saw a very interesting parallel in how companies who have innovative products or innovative or transformational products, how they should also position their sales efforts. So, for example, if it's if your product or your concept has a company-wide impact, and as you said, if there's a new CEO who's just taken charge, that's a right kind of time to plant the seed, because you have a willing ear to at least experiment or think about that. And conversely, if there's a company in crisis, and if your solution or your product can really help them turn around, that's the right time. Timing is everything. Also, in your talks, you have mentioned that innovation is a multifaceted exercise. It's not an individual, endeavor, right? And I think you use the term of we innovate and not I innovate. So, could you elaborate on that as well?
Yes, of course. It depends on your culture. In the United States, it are innovators. It are I, me, myself, and I. We all know the famous innovators of the US, and you all hear the same names. It's only one person. That doesn't fit the culture in Europe, where we do things together. It doesn't fit the culture in Asia, Japan, where we do things together. It doesn't fit the culture in Arabia, where we do things together. It doesn't fit the culture in India, where we do things together. In America, you can go, I innovate. But how many people do you need in an organization to go from idea, making a business case, start developing it, doing testing, scaling up, to introduction? How many people you need in an organization? In a big organization, it might be 5, 10, 100 people or more. How do you get ownership? Why should they work on your idea? And that's why so many ideas die. Because I am pushing my idea through the funnel, but they are with more, and they always win. There is only one moment for a great idea to get many fathers and mothers. That's when you make it together, as from the start. Because who determines the speed of your organization? They are not the innovators. You hire more innovators and they start running up front. But then an organization is like a herd of animals. Who determines the speed of the herd? Not the fastest animals, the slowest animals. So when the slowest animals of the herd move, then your whole organization moves, and then you innovate. So in innovation, you should not innovate only with innovators. You should add conservative people to your innovation team. And then you re-innovate together. And when you re-innovate, the most conservative, critical people, mostly the engineers or the accountants, they are very precise. They help you a lot they are really beneficial in the realization of it and in the deployment and implementation phase. So when you get them on board, you go slower. But when you re-innovate together, you go slower. But in the end, you will reach the market because there's support from everybody and there's ownership from everybody. Instead of the fast running, go, 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 lean startup method works wonderful most of the time, only in the United States, because it fits their culture. Not the culture of many other countries in the world.
Right.
So if you are successful in the US, keep on innovating. I don't mind. But when you want to be effective in more inclusive cultures and more conservative cultures, less risk-taking. In the US, they're risk-takers. In Japan, they're not risk-takers. In Arabia, they're not risk-takers. In Europe, we are not risk-takers. And that's why we need to do things slowly, and we must do things slowly, collectively, so that we all understand the risk and we all mitigate the risks. This is the way it's done in the rest of the world.
Got it. So this also brings two important aspects. So one is stakeholder management. So as innovators, you need to map the value, kind of do the internal selling, and whatever new idea or innovative concept you have, how does it change their lives of internal stakeholders? And what you mentioned about the slowest link is very, very crucial, because if you kind of get everyone on board and kind of start innovating, then you kind of make progress. And I think also it would help in the long term, because once these all internal stakeholders, they see a success story, then they'll be much more willing to listen to the next idea and the idea after next, right? You kind of pick up speed, similar to driving a car, right? You start from a lower gear and then you accelerate. So that becomes more sustainable. And I think also one more learning from what you just said is the importance of having diverse views at the planning or initial stages. So, what you're doing is much more grounded, has aspects linked with reality, and has a better chance of success than if you just think it's my idea and push away and then kind of take it ahead. That also brings us to another question. We talked about innovation, we talked about various concepts. Essentially, it's all about experiment, right? So what are your views on how innovators as well as in the organization we should have the culture of experimentation? Because when you experiment, you would have some positive results in time. When you experiment, you would have failures at times, and at times you won't really move the needle. But how do you manage all these aspects of performance, about culture, etc., when you talk of experiments?
Yes, well, you're completely right. Experimenting is a way to reduce risks. And as innovators, at the start of innovation, how much risk do you have? 100%. When you present your idea to the board, how much risk does the CEO or the board want to have before introducing it? 0%. So from 100 to 0, we innovators are risk reducers. That's our main job. That's why we're there. And in experimenting, you show there is little risk and you show real life results. So experimenting is essential in every phase of the innovation process. In the fourth innovation methodology, we get on the island raise ideas. That's the third island, the R. We get more than 1,000 ideas. We converge them into 60 idea directions. We will choose the top 15 to 20 concepts. We make 20 concepts. 20, why? The half of the ideas is shit, and we don't know which half. We love them all, right? So in the T, we go to test ideas. We immediately test them. We test them among the target group in the market. Is it so, or so? And then, boom, the half of them disappear, and the other half we improve on the feedback, right? And then you make a business case and you decide to do it. And then you make a kind of a minimal lovable product, as I call it, or service, or minimal viable product, however you call it. And then you test them again, right? And then you test the business model, right? Hey, we got 2 or 3 business models. So you have your minimal lovable product and you test 2 or 3 ways how to finance it. And you test it again. So this is how testing or experimenting, how you reduce risks with it. Because then it's not just a business case like a hockey stick based like this. No, we've done an experiment. We experimented with 3 versions, and these versions convert 100% of the target group into 50% awareness, 30% first willing to buy, and 25% repeat buying. Whoa, that's convincing. And that's not just, it's out of a real market experiment we did for 3 months.
Right.
So this is the way how to reduce risk. So experimenting is essential.
Right. Excellent. So, could you share some interesting use cases where you have applied the fourth innovation method and where your clients have got some great success and breakthroughs in business or other aspects? It could be social area, it could be other areas as well. Very keen to hear about your experience.
Sure, I will tell you two aspects. The fourth innovation methodology I made out of frustration in the 1990s and beginning of the 2000s. I started experimenting in 2002, 3, 4, 5. Mind you, that's before YouTube, right? It's before Lean Startup was not written. There was no YouTube, no business model innovation. Stanford only reinvented design thinking in 2006, so this was all before. And I was frustrated, and I studied creativity, and then I combined creativity with business thinking, where I originally come from. So this is how the fourth methodology starts. I did the first project in 2005, and it really works. And then I wrote a book, another book, and now the methodology is available in 14 languages. I just was in Riyadh to introduce it in Saudi Arabia in the 14th language. Used all over the world, not only for product innovation, but also service innovation. So my second book was called Creating New Products and Services. And then there came business model innovation after 2010. And then I will give two examples, one from business. There was a concrete company in the Netherlands, beton, concrete. They make concrete. We had the financial crisis, 2009, 10. In 11, 12, 13, no house was built. What do you do as a concrete company? Everybody makes the same product. Margins, sales go down, margins go down. It was a family company. They did one reorganization, two reorganizations, and then a silent third reorganization, and they felt, we must do something different. And they did a fourth innovation journey of 5 months, 15 workshops in 5 months, with a team of 10 to 15 people, and we brought back 5 business cases. They needed to have evolutionary ones, incremental ones, and revolutionary ones. Incremental ones because they need sales tomorrow. So let's do something what we can do. And I will give you an example of an evolutionary one and a revolutionary one. This concrete company also made towel glue. When you make towel glue, you got these sacks, and then you empty the 25 kilo sack, you mix it with water, then you make towel glue, you put it on the floor, and you put the towels on top of it. For big floor tiling, like for airports, for schools, for shopping centers, this was a big job. And you needed a crew of 4, of which one person was continuously making towel glue. But also the towel glue market was down. So there was a question, how can we make things simpler and cheaper? And you know what? From concrete, they used to supply on the building site these silos filled with liquid concrete. And you can just get it out with a hose. They said, why don't we do this with towel glue? Why don't we make liquid towel glue? And we can put it in silos, and they just can go with a wheelbarrow under it and then just put it on the floor. And that's what they did. For the tilers, they saved 1 out of 4 people, giving him back his margin. They could charge a higher price because they could deliver it liquid. And within 2 years, they tripled their market share. Yes, that is a great, simple solution, adopting something they already had from the concrete portfolio, the process they applied to their towel glue portfolio, making a liquid towel glue instead of dry towel glue, making the process simpler for the tilers to adopt. One other business case was on the revolutionary side. There was this article, mind you, we're talking about 2012 now, about 3D printing, and some professor in California tried to do that. Interesting. So they had their dream making 3D printed architectonical concrete, because now you have to make a wooden mold. Every time you have to make for original piece, a wooden mold, and then you pour it, and then it dries, and then you got your product out. Now imagine that you just program it. You got the design in, and you put it in the 3D printer of concrete, and it printed 3D printing. And they adopted this business case too, and they developed for 8 years. And then in 2020, they opened the first 3D concrete architectonical printing of concrete factory in the world. And they had a huge project in the Netherlands where they rebuilt a facade around a big apartment flat, 2 flats in Den Helder in the Netherlands. And it looked like a really gaudy shape like facade. It looks magnificent. And it could be done because it was done with 3D printing. Fantastic. So this organization survived on the short term and grew again so that they could afford the long-term revolutionary one.
Excellent.
This is for business. From the other one is social innovation. I train yearly 4th innovation facilitators to apply the methodology. And this one I trained from the United Nations, Andrew Begori. And he was leading a refugee camp in Uganda. And a refugee camp is like a little city. There were like 40,000 people living there. But it was a nasty place for women and children because and young girls, because they were harassed by men. And this was the year that the United Nations wants to make it a safer place for women and girls, a refugee camp. What was the problem, Ashish? It's this. Women, they provide the food. They need to cook the food. And for cooking food, you need fire. And for fire, you need wood. So they send out the young girls to the woods to collect firewood. And then they were harassed by men outside the camp in the woods. You don't want that to happen. So they ideated with the 4th innovation methodology a huge wall full of ideas. And one of the ideas was this. Next to the refugee camp was a banana plantage. And bananas are grown in these banana peelings, these big brown peelings. And you have to get that off to get to the bananas. And then it was a bit like wood. And then they thought, why don't we press the banana peelings into briquettes? When you press them into briquettes, it appeared that the briquettes burned 3 times longer than wood. So what did they do? They made a little briquette factory. United Nations bought the briquettes. They gave women in every quarter of the refugee camp the right to sell the briquettes, and those women sold in. They had a business model to other women. And as the briquettes burned 3 times longer than regular wood, the girls didn't have to go to the wood that often, and in that way it became safer for girls to live in the refugee camp. And this social innovation won the United Nations Innovation Excellence Award of 2017.
Fascinating. Excellent. Thank you, Gijs. This gives a great perspective. And thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in. Do subscribe, share, and like this podcast. Consider giving it a 5-star rating if you like the content. Bye for now. Talk to you soon.